today's meeting of the Lincoln Parish School Board for the month of September 2024. I would ask everybody rise for the invocation prepared for by Danny Hancock, and then we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance to the American flag, which is on my left on the wall, by Miss Linda Henderson.
Praise God. Father God, we thank you for this day, Lord, and Father, we're so grateful for this beautiful weather. And Father, we just pray for all of our schools, Lord, and we got some great schools in Lincoln Parish. And Father, we really pray for the teachers and all the administrators, Father God, and I just pray that they have a great year and keep up the good work. And thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge to the greatest nation in the planet. Pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, hopefully you've had an opportunity to review the agenda that you have in front of you. So, do I have any questions or comments on the agenda? Seeing none, hearing none, I would ask that someone make a motion we approve that.
I so move.
So moved by Mr. Hancock.
Second.
Second by Mr. Joe Mitchum. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no.
No.
All right, so moving on to the approval of the minutes of the regular session of August 6, 2024. Hopefully you've had a chance to review those as well. Are there any questions or comments on the agenda or the minutes? Hearing none, I would ask that someone make a motion that we approve those.
So moved.
So moved by Donna Doss.
Second.
Second by Ms. Linda Henderson. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Thank you very much. Again, it's an honor to be here at Shudrant High School, and I would recognize Mr. Chris Jones, principal of this fantastic school, to come and introduce some folks.
Good morning. We want to welcome the board members and our guests for coming here to Shudrant High School with us. We start every day by telling our students what the mission of CHS is, and our mission's clearly on the board, is to ensure that the students have higher academic achievement and to prepare them to be effective citizens. And we depend on all of our teachers, all of our leaders here at the school to make sure that we provide our kids with a great education and opportunities. Kind of introduce ourselves. My name is Chris Jones. I'm the principal. I've got Mr. Jeffrey Underwood right here, who's our assistant principal. Miss Amy McGuire is our academic counselor, and Miss Jessie Bryan is walking in. She's our mental health counselor. Chris Cavan is our curriculum coach. He's got a class, so he may not be in here with us right now. And Ryan Smith is our athletic director here at the school. So here are our priorities that we've gone through. They align with the Lincoln Parish policies here at Shudrant High School. To prepare students for their next stage of their academic career, whether that be a four-year college, a trade school, or if they're going to go right into the workforce. We want to support our students with their growth and mastery goals, use the Louisiana standards for modeling successful learning, and consistently and fairly enforce our school rules and our policies. And we try to promote family involvement here at the school as much as possible. Some of our academic opportunities that we have here at the school, we offer dual enrollment classes through Louisiana Tech and ULM. We have advanced placement courses in AP Human Geography and AP Environmental Science. We added that last year. We have honors courses in all of our grades 6 through 12. We offer CTE courses through Ag, Family and Consumer Sciences, and business classes, and our IBCs through ServSafe Food Handler, CIW, Customer Service, and the Business of Retail. Some of our athletic opportunities that we offer, we have a fantastic cross-country team. We've got boys and girls basketball, tennis, track, baseball, softball, golf, and we offer spirit squads at both the junior high and the high school level. Our clubs, we have junior high beta, 4-H, Fellowship of Christian Students, student council, fishing club, and we have a lot of kids that are involved in the fishing club and at the high school and the junior high levels. We added golf last year at the junior high. We're moving that into the high school this year. We'll have an LHSAA sport in golf. We have our Aggie ambassadors, and we have several of them over here as well as our FFA kids. And then in high school we have the FBLA, the Future Farmers of America. They're going to be here making sure you guys are following the Robert Rules of Order today in the meeting. Our FCA, fishing again, and our ASL club we had a teacher that came. She teaches English for us, and she has started in a sign language club, and they meet up there a couple days a week, and she teaches students how to sign, and they've moved in and working with some of our self-contained students in that. And then last year, Mr. Deard helped us out, and we got choir started here at CHS, and we have junior high students and high school students who are part of the choir. Some of the things that we're really proud of here at the high school, we've been an A school since 2011 and 12 when LDOE started giving us those letter grades. We're consistently in the top 5 combination schools for non-select admissions. We have top gains in equity honorees as recognized by the LDOE. We have 23 state championships in LHSA sports since 2000. Last year we had numerous students that qualified in FBLA. We had several of them that were state champions in FBLA, and they qualified to go to the national competitions in Orlando. Our ACT index grew last year by 12 points, and in the past 4 years we've had 3 of our students that have been selected to service academies, whether that be the West Point or the Naval Academy. So we're extremely proud of those students. And then, as you all know, the community really supports Shudron High School. It is kind of the heart and soul of us. We had our bond measure that passed by a 2/3 vote last year for the multi-purpose building and the elementary classrooms, which we were very proud of that. Our community and family support is phenomenal. And then some of the things, I don't know if y'all have seen this lately, or y'all may have, but the exponential growth that we've seen out here in the high school. In 2015, when I started here, we had 283 students. Yesterday, we had 419 here on the campus, and our projection is in 5 years that we're going to have about 546. So I always tell Mr. Deard, make sure you get your pocketbook loosened up, because we're going to have to be adding some facilities here at some point. But I appreciate you guys coming, and I hope everything goes well for you today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Jones. He did tell me a while ago that the students would be here to evaluate us on our, how we handle ourselves. So we're going to try. All right, we're going to try. Criticism is always welcome. And again, we thank you to Shudron High School for allowing us to be here. I know it's always a little different when we're in a gymnasium. Just everybody who's not used to coming to a meeting, on the items that we vote on, we do allow for public comment on those items. And so I realize that getting in and out of these seats could be a little awkward. So if you have a comment, just let me know when that time comes. And so I'm not going to ask you specifically to come down. If it's inconvenient to come down to the podium, you can do it from where you're at. But anyway, so moving on to section 5 for unfinished business, we have a request to accept bids for gasoline and fuel for 24-25, Mr. Ricky Edmiston.
Yes, sir, Mr. Phillips. On August 27th, we opened the fuel bids for the gasoline and diesel for the next year, and we are recommending to accept the bid meeting. We only had one bid, and that was from Suncoast Resources, used to be known as Relodyne. You have an attachment there that show you those pricing. The gasoline is up 4 cents from last year, and the diesel is up 6 cents. And what that cost what that is the labor and hauling fees for getting that to the depot. And so we're asking you to accept this bid.
Thank you very much. All right, so we only have one bid to consider.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, so are there any questions from the board members? Any public comment? Seeing none, all in favor to grant permission? Oh, I need a motion. You're right. Sorry. There's one. That's one. Do I get a motion then?
I'll make a motion we accept these bids.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchum. Second by? Thank you. Second by Hunter Smith. All right. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. All right. Let's move on to the next one on execute substantial completion for the Ruston High School Chiller Project. Mr.
Yes, sir. That project is complete, and it's been a really good thing for Ruston High. It should last us, 20 to 25 years into the future. ESSER dollars provided this for us, And so what we are asking is that you give us permission to execute substantial completion on the documents for the Ruston High Chiller project.
All right. So, do I have a motion then to execute this completion for the Ruston High School chillers?
If nothing from the public or board members, I move that we move to approve this.
Thank you, Hunter Smith. Second.
Second.
Second by Danny Hancock. Any public comment? Any questions from the board? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Hearing none, that matter passes. Okay, Mr. Payton, you're up to execute the substantial completion for the Ruston High School turf project.
Thank you, Mr. President. All of the work on the Ruston High School football turf project is complete. The contractor did an excellent job. The field looks really good. So at this time, it's necessary that we request from the board permission to execute a substantial completion. Substantial completion means whatever work has been done, in this case the turf on the football field, becomes the responsibility of the owner. We take possession of whatever was done. It also starts the 30-day lien period in the course of the job. If somebody didn't get paid through a substantial completion, as an avenue for the contractor or whoever that didn't get paid to get paid. So my recommendation to the board is to authorize the superintendent, the staff, architect to execute this substantial completion.
Thank you, sir. Do I have a motion to execute the completion for Ruston High School football project?
I'll make a motion.
I got Mr. Hunter Smith. Sorry, there's a tie down there. One of you two can fight for a second. Thank you, Donna Doss, for a second. Any public comment or any questions from the board? Hearing none, seeing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. That is passed. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Now, to approve the contractor for the CMAR for Ruston School District Number 1 bond project, Mr. Durrett.
Okay, so May 7th, you as a board authorized us to use the construction for management risk process for the Ruston School District Bond Project Number 1. We did advertise for this. We had 2 submissions received by the August 8th deadline. We have a committee of 5 members: Hunter Smith, Danny Hancock, George Beck Jr., David Walker, and Rice Gregory served in that selection process. We held interviews on August 20th, and after the final tabulations, Clark Construction was selected for this project. So I would ask you today to approve Clark Construction for the Ruston School District bond project.
Okay. So, do I have a motion that we approve this contractor for the Ruston District Number 1 bond project?
So move.
So moved by Mr. Hancock. Do I have a second? Second by Hunter Smith. Any questions from the board?
Where's Clark from?
Little Rock.
Little Rock, Arkansas.
Any other questions? Any comments from the audience? Y'all are quiet. Thank you for that. No, just kidding. All right. Hearing none, seeing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Okay. Let's move.
Well, at this time, I know
yes.
Mr. Shannon Earls is here from Clark Construction. Just wanted y'all to meet him, and also Jacob Earls with Clark Construction. Since you approved it, I wanted you to meet who was in charge of that, and let him just say a few words.
Yes, thank you, Ricky, and board members. Thank you for your faith in Clark, and I know we're new to you. I'm not new to Ruston. I had the pleasure of growing up here, and it's great to be back. I'm back here often. I have a lot of friends and family in this area. You have my word. We're going to serve you well. You will, I think you will enjoy the different phases of the projects just based on how they're managed, and I stand behind every single commitment that we've made thus far to the committee members, and we just wanted to say thank you for trusting us, and we are looking forward to serving you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay.
Mr. President, if I could chime in, just one thing. I think Mr. Hancock will speak to this, and Mr. Mack too. One thing that was really cool about Clark, not only Shannon, one of the principals, is a Ruston High graduate. They are partnering with a local contractor here in Ruston. Triad Builders and the Jones family on this project, but probably the neatest thing for me was the program that they provide to students of the local schools on their projects. And they look for students that are interested in the construction field, and they bring them along when they can as laborers or internship type deals with people in their group. So I thought that was a really neat thing that they did, and we're excited about Clark and these guys getting started.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Anybody else? All right, we'll move on to new business. Item 6.1, to approve the Louisiana Audit Compliance Questionnaire for June 30th, 2024. Ms. Juanita Duke.
Thank you very much. This is a normal recurring item this time of the year prior to us beginning our audit of the fiscal year 23-24. Actually, our auditors have already begun, but they will be coming back for their third time later this month. This is a questionnaire that the legislative auditor requires auditors present to school district administration to complete and to have it presented to the board for review and approval and provided to our auditors whenever they come to complete our field work. And so it's various compliance questions. If you've had a chance to review that, we've responded to those. And at this time, we would like to ask that your approval of the responses for our system survey and compliance questionnaire to be presented to our auditors for 23-24.
Thank you very much. So there's a request by Ms. Duke that we approve the Systems Survey and Compliance Questionnaire. Is there any, do I get a motion for that? So moved by Hunter Smith, second by? Second by Mr. Joe Mitchum. Any questions? Any comments from the audience? Hearing none. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Thank you. Item number 2 is to adopt the resolution authorizing our superintendent to sign the uninsured motorist form. Ms. Duke?
Yes, this is another item that's recurring every year with the renewal of our commercial liability insurances, particularly in regards to our auto coverage. We usually, and it's recommended by our agent, that we do reject the underinsured motorist coverage just because it would be accepting liabilities that the school board would not necessarily be responsible for or liable for to begin with. So in order to do that, you have a resolution before you that reads, therefore be it resolved that the Lincoln Parish School Board hereby authorizes Superintendent Ricky Durrett to sign the required Louisiana underinsured motorist form reflecting the rejection of underinsured motorist bodily coverage for the October 1, 2024 to October 1, 2025 auto liability coverage, period. And with that, we would just like to request your permission to approve that at this time.
Thank you. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Mitchum. Do I get a second?
Second.
Second by, thank you, Mr. Mack. All right, any questions from the board? Any comments? I didn't think so. All right. All in favor to authorize superintendent to sign the uninsured motorist form, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. All right, that matter passes. Mr. Young, let's go over some policy manual revisions, please.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. We have a total of 10 policy revisions that are being recommended due to outcomes of the 2024 legislative session. We will have more revisions. That should be the end of the review coming up next month in October, but the first of the 10. ABCB, School Board Member Qualifications, Act 204 includes a requirement that board members possess a high school diploma or its equivalent. Also adds new language that prohibits a person from serving on the school board if they've been convicted or pled no contest to a crime listed in LARS 15587.1. BBBC, School Board Member Continuing Education, this is revision. Act 198 includes special education to list of training for school board members. BCBB, notification of school board meetings, Act 617 rewords the notification method to giving notice rather than mailing notice. It also provides requirement that the notice be provided to the Commissioner of Administration in a format and manner that allows the Commissioner to post the notice 24 hours prior to the scheduled time of the meeting. GBA, contracts and compensation. Act 311 addresses additional compensation to be paid to employees for work not specifically covered in the employee's job description. GBRIB, sick leave. Act 315 extends the amount of leave that school employees receive for disability caused by physical contact with a student from 90 days to 1 year. GBRIBB, sick leave bank. Act 115 addresses extended sick leave or the sick leave bank for school bus operators, teachers, and school employees respectively. JGC, Student Health Services. Act 161 requires non-complex health procedures to be prescribed by a physician licensed in Louisiana or any other state in the United States. JGCB, immunizations. Acts 460 and 674 add language to existing policy that states teachers or administrators may not distinguish students based on their vaccination status. JGCD, administration of medication. Act 161 allows school nurses and other trained school employees to administer naloxone in emergency situations, and that's a drug similar to Narcan. And the last one, JGCFA, behavioral health services for students. Act 745 allows behavioral health providers to provide medically necessary behavioral health services authorized by an independent third-party payer. It also includes new language requiring behavioral health analysts to have a background check through the Louisiana State Police, and also establishes guidelines for the working relationship between schools and the analyst. My recommendation that the board waives the review period, which is BD, and then approve these policies as presented.
Thank you very much. Okay, so the first thing we have to do is get a motion that we waive policy BD, which allows us to review these policy changes for a month before we vote on them. So we need to waive that. So do I get a motion that we waive policy BD? So move. I'll take that one from Ms. Linda Henderson. Do we get a second? Second by Mr. Hunter Smith. Any questions from the board? Any comments from the audience? Seeing none. All in favor to waive policy BD, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Okay, so therefore, since we waive policy BD, we can approve these changes as presented. Do I get a motion that we approve these changes as presented?
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Donna Doss.
Second.
Second by Mr. Danny Hancock. Any questions from the board or any comments from the audience on those? Seeing none, hearing none. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Okay, those items are addressed and passed. Thank you very much. Okay, so that ends the voting part of our meeting. So we'll go to the reports section, which is an academic update from Ms. Dana Talley. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good morning, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you guys today to provide an academic update. You do have a couple of things in your packet. One, you have the PowerPoint presentation that I'm going to go through with a few slides. But you also have a document that's titled Lincoln Parish Academic Expectations for Schools, which looks like this. So that's going to provide some additional details to what I'm going to talk about in the presentation today. I want to start with, I've got a lot of folks on my team and Justin's team. So my team is the academic team. Justin's team is the student support services team. And they spend all of their time every day in schools, boots on the ground, supporting principals, supporting teachers, supporting kids. And I've got a lot of those folks here with me today. So if you will, if you guys will stand. Thank you. These are the folks that really make it happen in Lincoln Parish, so I appreciate them. I thought, Mr. Phillips, your head was in my way, but I think we're good now. I want to start with what we know. So there was a report put out by the New Teacher Project, TNTP, and this report was based on research that was done of 4,000 students in 5 school districts across this country. And what they did is they followed these students, and what they found about these students is these kids had really big goals. They had great things that they wanted to accomplish in life. But what they realized was that these goals were slipping away. And it wasn't because the students couldn't do the challenging work that was put in front of them. It's because the challenging work was never put in front of them to begin with. Many of these students never even had the opportunity to try to do the challenging work. And so I have a quote here I want to read. It says, most students, and especially students of color, those from low-income families, those with mild to moderate disabilities, and English language learners, in this study, they noticed that they spent the vast majority of their school day missing out on 4 critical resources. The first is grade-appropriate assignments. The second is strong instruction. The third is deep engagement. And the fourth is teachers with high expectations. Students in this study spent more than 500 hours per school year on assignments that weren't even appropriate for their grade, with the instruction that didn't ask enough of them, the equivalent of 6 months of wasted class time in each core subject. And I wanted to share this first because this is the foundation of what we know to be true. We know that for all students to be successful, those 4 critical resources have to be in place in every school, in every classroom, for every kid, every single day. So I want us now to look at, what do we believe in Lincoln Parish? So in Lincoln Parish, there are 3 things we believe about students, teachers, and school leaders. 1, we believe that all students should have access to grade level learning every day. We believe that all educators and staff can be successful in supporting those students with that grade level learning. And then third, we believe not only that school leaders can support educators, but we believe school leaders must support educators in meeting the needs of every learner. And so then next, I want to talk about what we expect. We first talked about what we know. We second talked about what we believe. Now, what do we in Lincoln Parish expect of our schools? Number 1, when we walk in classrooms, we expect the teacher to be delivering an effective lesson using high-quality instructional materials. So what you'll see on this slide is actually, we call it the classroom support tool. So this is the walkthrough observation that our principals and coaches use to give feedback to teachers on a regular basis. So first is, are they using the resources, and are they using them well, and are they on pace? The second thing we expect is that all students in the class are engaged. And what do we mean by engaged? We mean that the kids in the class are doing the heavy lifting. They're doing the thinking of the lesson, they're doing the talking that's required in the lesson, and they're doing the work of the lesson. And that lesson is grade level content, just like we saw in the TNTP study that a lot of those kids were missing. And then the third thing that we expect is we expect teachers to be walking around and giving students quality feedback on the work of the grade level lesson. Again, none of this matters if what we're putting in front of kids is not grade level work. So that's why indicator 1 starts with high quality instructional materials. So then let's talk about what is our model as an academic team and as a district in general. So the way we structure our support is we support school principals and their assistant principals and their coaches. We build capacity with them so that we can have folks on campuses who have the capacity to help solve the problems on that campus. And then we expect our school leaders and coaches to support teachers, and then our teachers support kids. And then finally, I want to talk through some of the structures that we have put in place to make sure that what we believe and what we know must happen in classrooms every day is actually happening. So the first thing here that we have listed are what we call check-ins. And check-ins are just an opportunity, really just a space, to provide ongoing dialogue about what's going well and where support is needed. It's also a time where important updates and expectations can be communicated one-on-one. So Mr. Barron and I meet monthly with principals for a check-in. Our district facilitators meet with the school coaches once a month. We expect principals to meet with their coaches once a month, and then we want the school coaches to meet with the teachers they support once a month to have that time set aside to work through those concerns or provide updates. The next thing I want to look at is you see BOY, MOY, EOY conferences. So we're going to start with the beginning of the year conference. So Mr. Young and I will meet individually with principals for a beginning of the year conference. And the purpose of this conference is going to be obviously to talk about the results from the prior year, but also to think about, based on those results, what will the school improvement focus be for this school year. At this meeting, very specifically, principals are going to identify the area of refinement from our new Louisiana Leader Rubric, and then they're going to develop an action plan to address whatever that area of refinement is. These conferences are going to be conducted the week of September 16th through the 20th. And I didn't mention this earlier, but the yellow pages at the bottom left of each slide is where you can find more details in that academic expectations document. So then next you'll see the middle of the year conference. So we've had our beginning of the year conference. We'll come back in the middle of the year and meet with principals individually again. And what we're doing there is we're progress monitoring the goals that were set at the beginning of the year conference, and also how principals are progressing with the action plan that they developed. And if mid-year adjustments need to be made, we'll talk about that at that conference. And these conferences will be conducted the week of December 9th through the 13th. And then additionally, something that we're starting this year, Mr. Durrett, Mr. Young, and I will meet with each of the school teams, so that's the principal and their leadership team, and we're going to go to their campus. This will be the week of January 9th through the 17th. And the purpose of this meeting is going to be to review our middle of the year data. So what will we have? We'll have school performance scores, we'll have subgroup results, we'll have VAM data for teachers, we'll have Dibbles and Forefront screener results for not only the beginning of the year, but also the middle of the year by then. And we are asking schools to present their strengths and weaknesses, and then their plan for addressing any of the weaknesses. And then finally, at the end of the year, Mr. Young and I will again meet individually with principals, and our goal there is just to reflect on how the year went, whether or not the principals met the goals that they set, and what the plan is moving forward for the next year. And these conferences will occur the week of May 12th through the 16th. So the next thing you'll see here are instructional leadership team meetings, or ILTs. So our principals are required to implement either weekly or bi-weekly ILT meetings. Members of the ILT include the principal, assistant principal, coaches, and lead teachers. And the purpose of the ILT meeting is going to be to review student data and also teacher data, and look at strategies of support that are needed for individual teachers and students. And additionally, we have a district instructional leadership team meeting that meets monthly to review school data, and then for us to determine which schools, coaches, teachers need additional support, and how my team and I can prioritize our time. And then you'll see next on the list collaborations. So each school is required to implement weekly teacher collaborations, and this is for tested grades and subjects. And the purpose of these meetings is for teachers to engage in lesson study, unit study, but also student work analysis using protocols that we've developed here in the district. And then in addition to teacher collaborations, we have district facilitators that host monthly collaboratives for the coaches to continue their professional learning. And then the last thing that you'll see on the list are coaching plans. So all teachers are expected to receive feedback from walkthrough observations, either informal or formal, and in most cases they're using that classroom support tool that I talked about earlier, where we're looking at the delivery of the lesson, student engagement, and then the feedback to the students. Based on these observation results and also what we're seeing with student results, the schools are required to develop coaching plans for priority teachers this year. But beginning next year with our new evaluation system, all teachers will have to have a coaching plan that's developed after their first observation. And I just want to say here, the thing that we're zeroing in here this year that's different from years in the past is not just whether or not the teachers are preparing a good lesson and actually delivering the lesson. We're actually checking to see, are kids mastering the content? Are they initiating understanding? Are they developing understanding? Are they nearing understanding? Or if it's appropriate in this lesson, did they actually develop a full understanding? And so we're really trying to get our schools to focus on, and we have some very specific ways of how they can track this. But again, you taught the lesson great. Did kids learn the content? How do you know? And if they didn't, what is your plan? So that's really a focus that we have across the district this year. And then based on our analysis of all of our data so far, we've decided, of course, that our top priority for the 24-25 school year is K2 literacy. And so because of that, I wanted to spend the majority of the time that we have here with you today digging into the plan that we've developed to address our literacy concerns and some background on the development of that plan. So I'm going to turn it over to Michelle Thrower. She is our K2 ELA facilitator, to give us a little bit of background and then to introduce our special guest from Louisiana Tech.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Ms. Talley, and thank you to the board for the opportunity to speak to you today. We do have some special guests here from Louisiana Tech, but before I introduce them, I would like to provide you with a little context as to why they have been invited. As the District K2 ELA facilitator, literacy is my primary focus in Lincoln Parish. My personal goal is for all students to be reading on grade level by the end of second grade. Over the last few years, we have witnessed a lot of change and attention focused on literacy at both the national level and the state level. Last year, the Louisiana Department of Education adopted DIBELS, which stands for Dynamic Indicator of Basic Early Literacy Skills, as the universal screener for Louisiana. This was the first time that all districts were required to give the full battery of recommended literacy screening instruments in K3 3 times, at the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, and the end of the year. While I am proud to report that the proficiency rate for all grade levels increased from beginning of year to end of year, our end of year overall literacy proficiency rate was a disappointing 55%. This placed Lincoln Parish in line with the state average and ranked 34th among all districts in Louisiana. I'm definitely not satisfied with these results. Prior to last year, we tracked our literacy data through two different measures, iSteep and School Pace. iSteep was approved by the Louisiana Department of Education, and only one assessment per grade level was required to be reported. It was not a full battery of screening assessments as are required now. Based on that data, our proficiency rate looked much better, but even then, it was not where we wanted it to be. School Pace provides proficiency rates based on independent reading level assessment data that is entered by classroom teachers. This data gave us similar results to iSteep. We predicted that moving to an assessment that included the full battery of literacy screening instruments would yield a drop in our overall proficiency rate. We honestly did not predict such a significant drop. I love the quote by Maya Angelou. Do the best you can until you know better. Then, when you know better, do better. In the 2022-23 school year, we trained all of our K3 teachers and leaders in the science of reading. We learned that phonemic awareness and phonics must be taught using a systematic and explicit process. We focused on our implementation of our core curriculum and added the Hegarty Phonemic Awareness curriculum in all K-2 classrooms. As we analyzed our middle-of-the-year DIBELS data last year, we began to get a clearer picture of how our students were actually performing. We noticed that one of our Hillcrest Elementary first grade teachers' proficiency data was significantly outperforming many other first grade classrooms across the district. I had a conversation with the literacy coach there and asked her, find out what that teacher is doing. That's when we learned she had found the UFly Foundation's curriculum and was using it during her small group instruction. So the next logical thing was to go and see how she was accomplishing this. After observing her work with students using UFly, I was intrigued. The students were engaged. They wanted to come to her small group lesson, and they were reading and writing during the lesson. The lesson provided a systematic and explicit instruction and time for students to practice what they were learning. Around that same time, Drs. Manning and Kimball Lopez contacted Ms. Talley and me about this great phonics curriculum called UFly Foundations. We met with them and decided that we needed to do more research before committing to anything. They suggested we talk with A.E. Phillips and observe one of their classes, as they had begun to use this curriculum in October. Observing a UFly lesson in a kindergarten classroom after only a few months of implementation was mind-blowing. We decided our next step was to talk with school administrators and teachers to have them look at this curriculum and give us feedback. Their response was overwhelmingly positive. They were excited about it and wanted to learn more. Toward the end of the school year, Louisiana Tech reached out to us again with a proposal. They would provide training, teacher manuals, and sound wall resources for all of our teachers in exchange for student proficiency data to conduct a research study on the implementation of UFly Foundations. The team from Louisiana Tech is here today to provide more information about UFly Foundations and why we believe this partnership and the implementation of this curriculum will be a game changer for the students of Lincoln Parish. I now have the pleasure of introducing you to Dr. Libby Manning from Louisiana Tech, who will provide you with an overview of UFly Foundations. She will also introduce the rest of the Louisiana Tech faculty that are here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. That was my first hurdle because I tripped over a gas pump hose in May and broke my shoulder in 3 places. So when I saw the wires across the floor, I said, okay, that's going to be my first goal, is to get over there safely, and so far so good. Thank you so very much for having us today, for hosting at this beautiful school, for having us here, and for welcoming us. I would love for our team to stand. Dr. Dustin Whitlock is, of course, no stranger to you all. He is our now interim department head, and he is in Washington, D.C. at the moment, so we will excuse him. But Dr. Don Schillinger, Dr. Kimberly Kimball-Lopez, and Dr. Julie Capo. And our new dean, Dr. Henrietta Pichon. So you could stand, please, Dr. Pichon. Thank you. I ran this presentation by Dr. Pichon yesterday, and her immediate response was, how much time do you have? And so I do believe it is a little longer than probably it is going to necessarily need to be, because we are just a tad passionate about this. We are seeing such great results. We know that this science of reading movement has been in effect for probably the last 2 or 3 years. And just to give you a little background on that, the Louisiana Department of Education was awarded a $4 million grant this last year to provide modules to be able to do professional development for our teachers across the state in kindergarten through 3rd grade. Louisiana Tech was awarded that grant, which was very exciting, and I was selected to be the person to write the phonics module, while Dr. Kimberly Kimball-Lopez was selected to be the person to write the vocabulary module. After about 130 pages of my module writing, I will tell you, I was fascinated with this process even more. I thought I knew about reading and I thought I knew about how we learn to read, but the fact is that now we know so much more than we did. And that is because of an effort of a group of different disciplines coming together, which I'll get to in just a minute. But I would love to start with Dr. Stephen Peters. I don't know if you all are familiar with him, but I actually met him a few years ago. He was the International Literacy Association president a few years ago. He is a former principal, former superintendent, and there is even a series that National Geographic put out called The American High School that you can get on Amazon Prime now, which is a 6-series, sort of a mini-series about how he went into a South Carolina school and really turned it around. He is extremely passionate and especially passionate about reading. And I have quoted his quote a million times because it is so really true. And I believe we can all understand that poverty is the enemy of education, but literacy is the vaccine for poverty. And we just deeply, deeply believe that. And what is really cool is when I looked that quote up to be sure I was quoting it exactly as he said it, I found an excerpt from a speech where he had been at ULM last February for the opening of their Black History Month, which I wish I would have known because I certainly would have been there to hear him, to see him. But I believe that what he is saying is really the driving force behind what we are all doing in this country in trying to make certain that our students are able to read. So UFly, just to give you a little bit of background about it, it is a comprehensive foundational skills curriculum for kindergarten through the 2nd grade. It has 128 lessons. It introduces all letters of the alphabet plus all the graphemes that those letters combine to make. It does a beautiful job starting in kindergarten that by lesson 5 in their curriculum, children are reading. They have been introduced to consonants and vowels, and they can now create and read consonant, vowel, consonant words based on those. So if they've got the M and the A and the T down, they can read mat and sat because they have the S down by that point too. So it's so encouraging to watch these little ones start to read. The way that they do that is they introduce 2 graphemes a week. And so students are continually amassing this wonderful information of making these sound symbol connections, but they're never leaving those. They're constantly being reviewed. And so their philosophy is this. They believe that literacy is essential for academic, social, and economic success. They believe it is an issue of equality and social justice, and that it is a basic human right. And again, I don't know anyone. I would love to meet someone who did not believe that, because I certainly believe we could convince them otherwise. This is so critical. And so when you look at our nation's scores, if we back up just a little bit, this was one of the big calls to action for the Science of Reading movement. The NAEP is the National Association for Education, National Assessment for Educational Progress, and it's given to a sampling of students across the country in every state. And in 2022, here is what our 4th graders across the country scored on the NAEP. We had 9% at advanced, or that's superior performance, 24% at proficient, which is solid academic performance, but then this is what is disheartening. 29% at basic. That does not mean that they are where they need to be. That means they are missing pieces. There's gaps there. We had 37% below basic. So if you really think about it statistically, we have about 66%, or 2/3 of our nation's 4th graders who are reading below a proficient level, and that is unacceptable. So what are we doing about it? What is the problem in the past? And that's what we're going to be getting to in just a minute. But this is a breakdown of how the percentages break down at subgroups. And you can look all of this up at the NAEP, the National Assessment of Educational Progress website. If you just do a Google search for NAEP, you will find more data than you can even shake a stick at. There are so many different reports and configurations that you can see. But this is what we saw for the proficient or advanced at the national level when we break down subgroups. Only 21% of our Hispanic students are at that proficient or advanced. Students that are eligible for National School Lunch Program, again, that's where we hit that poverty. Only 19% of them, and Black students, only 17% were at proficient or advanced. So let's see, what does that look like in Louisiana? How does that compare? So in those same 2022 scores, when we look at just Louisiana, you'll see it's pretty similar. Sadly, though, we have about 72% of our students, almost 3/4, are at reading at the basic or below basic level in our state. And again, that is unacceptable. And here's the breakdown there by subgroups. Again, it is unacceptable. We need to advance all of our students' reading level. So what exactly is causing this? Well, that's where the science of reading enters, because what we now know is that this research has been going on in all these different fields for a while, but sadly, it wasn't really being channeled into where we could all come together and figure out, so what are you learning and what are you learning? What is neuroscience telling us? What is cognitive psychology telling us? What is the linguistic world, our speech and language pathologists? What are you all telling us that we need to do for our children to learn to read? Because it actually all starts there. It all starts with phonology. It all starts with sounds. So the idea is that this science of reading is an accumulated body of evidence about making sense of all of these different studies. And we're looking at the human brain, we're looking at language structures, we're looking at thinking and listening, and at pedagogy. How do these all fit together to teach our children to read? Now, this is where I could get off for a little while, but I won't. I promise I will move along. But this is the human brain and how our brain reads. It is a little bit of a simplified version. It's what I show to our students, because I teach the phonics methods at Louisiana Tech, which is now a class that is really designed to hit and address some situations with children with dyslexia as well. But our brain reads by connecting the things that we pick up from our occipital lobe, those letters. They have no meaning for children, but the sounds do. So we are connecting the symbol to the sound, and then we also have to be able to make meaning of that word. So for us, we can't help but look around this room and see the word shoodrant. If I told you, do not read shoodrant, you couldn't do it. Why? Because our orthographic maps are already so sophisticated and built that we have so many words that just are at our disposal. We can't not read. We want that for every child. We want them to be able, sorry, this is why I'm never really good at with these. And if there was a battery, there is no more. So, okay. So anyway, maybe I'll be spending, oh, here it is, a little more time on the brain than I thought. All right, so basically, thank you. Yeah, I'm going to let you do it, because I promise you I will have it in backwards. Whoops, and see, there we go. All right, so anyway, basically what's happening is, if this is how our brain learns to read, what we now know is that our children need explicit, systematic, cumulative instruction to make that happen. We want our children to be able to look at words and say them without having to sound out every single word, thank you so much, when it comes to them on a page. That needs to be running in the background. Their reading, their decoding has now turned into orthographic maps, which means I can't look at that slide, the reading brain, and my brain is taking in every single letter, believe it or not. But it's taking in those letters and it's clicking and saying, I know that word, I know that pattern, that's reading. But for children, they have to be taught that. We have to build those orthographic maps with them. And it takes work, and it takes systematic and explicit teaching. They can't just haphazardly figure this out. So, how do we best help our children to do that? How do we help them to build those orthographic maps? Well, here are the principles of effective instruction and intervention. And you've already heard Mrs. Talley talk about a lot of this already, about the progress monitoring, about the being able to make sure children are engaged. But it comes with starting with clear and direct teaching. And it comes with those frequent checks for understanding, not waiting until the end of the week or even the end of the day to find out did they get it, but immediately stopping in the moment and giving corrective feedback, and not great job or no, that isn't quite right, but literally, oh, I heard some people saying buh, And really that sound is, let's try that again, because we don't want to add that at the end of our sound, because that will really get in the way of our reading and writing. Let's try that again. It's stopping in the moment. It is being so present and aware of what your students are doing through engagement that you can stop them in the moment and correct, or stop them in the moment and praise. But again, not just good job, but, oh my goodness, that was fantastic pronunciation of I could hear it, and I could hear nobody was adding another sound, and your teeth were right on your lips. Oh my goodness, you have got that F sound down. That's what we mean by explicit feedback. We need active participation, for sure. That's what the children need to be doing. They need to be doing the heavy lifting. The teachers already know how to read. We need them to do it, and we want success for all students, which is a given. So here is UFly. It meets all of those standards. It is research and evidence-based. I found out about it through all of my research in working with the Science of Reading modules on phonics. And what I love is that, yes, it's based on all that research that we know about how children need to learn to read and how our brain is designed, and teaching into that with that in mind. It's all that brain-based work. But they also put boots to the ground, and they went out and tested this in a big school system in Florida. And what we have down there is Hattie's, which I misspelled, so sorry about that. Speaking of phonics, it needed an IE on the end, sorry. Based on their Dibbles testing, which is what we were just hearing about from Mrs. Thrower, the idea is that what they were hoping to get would be a change of a 0.4 on Hattie's effect size, because that would show that there was some teacher effect there, that this, whatever was happening in the classroom was working. Instead, what they got was the kindergarten effect sizes from the beginning of the year to the end of the year were from between 1.2 to 1.44, off the chart, and the first grade effect sizes, also off the chart, were from 1.42 to 2.04. So that meant from the beginning of the year data to the end of the year, these children grew exponentially on that Dibbles measure. Here is the scope and sequence. Here is how they organized their lessons. I've just put that there for you to see that this covers kindergarten through second grade, which is nice because the students get used to this same rhythm. It's very structured lessons, 30 minutes a day of whole group, and then the teachers do a progress monitoring at the end of every week to see who got it, who didn't quite get it, and those are who I'm going to meet with next week. And I've already got my small groups ready so that when small group instruction comes and they can pull them to their table for 10 minutes a day, they can really get a lot of needs met and meet the children right where they are. Here's a sample of the lesson plan guidance. I love what Holly Lane, the author, says about this. She said it is low plan, not no plan. The teacher must do the planning, but they are given explicit, just very, very direct explanation of what it needs to look like and sound like. And you talk about how your mouth is made where you make this sound. So it's very multisensory. When you're learning to write while you're learning to read, guess what? When you encode while you decode, you learn to read faster. Because if you can read it, you can't necessarily write it, but if you can write it, guess what? You can read it. It's a higher level skill. So you're doing that together. They are learning to form the alphabet letters, and we're not just showing them, we're telling them how to do it. We're describing, using lined paper, how to form those letters. Are they perfect at first? Absolutely not. But the great thing is, you never leave alphabet letters. They are always coming back because you need them in all your words. So the Dibbles, as I've already mentioned, and I don't think I included this. Let me go back to this real quick. I don't think I remembered to include this in this slideshow. I think I added it later. But one of the things that really astounded me was, for instance, if you've got the letters combination or the grapheme SH, this is where it's taught in this lesson. For the next 10 lessons, it is reviewed over 300 times. That astounded me. So we saw that with the short I, same thing. It was introduced, whatever lesson it was introduced, the next 10 lessons, it was over 386 times that letter short I was practiced over and over in context. So the kids are getting it. So the DIBELS is the Dynamic Indicators of Basic Early Literacy Skills. It's given at the beginning, middle, and end of the year. Not all parts are given to all grades all times, so I've included what parts are given to each grade at the beginning, middle, and end of the year. But this is what we're measuring. This is what we're seeing. Where did they begin? Where are they about mid-year? And where are they at the end of the year? This is what was used in the data that University of Florida collected to be able to see such great growth with their students. This is what's cool to me about another really cool thing, not just the only one, but what's really neat to me to see about UFly is, guess what? Every time there is something assessed on DIBELS, you can go back into the UFly lesson, and each lesson is set up exactly the same. It's a 2-day sequence, and steps 1 through 5 are done on day 1, and then you pick up step 5 just a little bit on day 2 and go through 8. But every single time you go and say, look at that visual drill. On that visual drill, students, kindergartners, and first graders are given a sheet of randomized letters, upper and lower case, and they have to name as many as they can in 1 minute. Well, guess what? Step 2, on the visual drill, every other day when you're hitting step 2, you are reviewing every letter that's already been taught and letter combination and the sound that is associated with that letter or letter combination. In the auditory drill, they're having to write the letters of the sounds they hear. And then in steps 5 through 8, which is the new concept, word work, irregular words, and connected text, they're hitting those letters again. So they're constantly meeting the challenges or the expectations of DIBELS. Here is phoneme segmentation. This is where a teacher calls out a word like pat and asks the child, what sounds do you hear in pat? P-at is what you would want them to say. Or you call out p-at and you ask the child, what word does that make? And they say pat. Believe it or not, that is a huge indicator of reading success. That is something our students need to be able to do at kindergarten and first grade successfully so that they can be connecting those graphemes to those phonemes. Then nonsense word fluency. I think this one gets a bad rap. We're like, why do they need to read nonsense words? Who needs nonsense words? But the whole idea of the nonsense word fluency is to see what spelling patterns have they already orthographically mapped. When they come across a word they don't know, what are they able to pull from what they do know to make it make sense? So what we typically see here is that children will try to make sense of these words. So we quickly have to tell them, okay, some of these words are not going to make any sense. Well, guess what? UFly thinks of that too. And they go ahead and say, you know what? We're going to hit some words during this blending drill or during this word work time that are going to just be nonsense words. So they kind of go ahead and prepare them for it. But when I know a consonant, vowel, consonant pattern, and I see an A in the middle of a word between two consonants, I know that it must be short. Now, I know sometimes we have exceptions, but that's automatically, if I see the word T-A-T, I'm going to know it's tat and not tate, just simply because I already know that pattern. That's what UFly is teaching. They're teaching them the patterns along with the letters and sounds that are represented. Okay, I think this says the battery is low, so, okay. So anyway, there are other pieces too that go along with DIBELS, and as soon as we get it plugged back in, I'll show you, but I want you to notice on nonsense word fluency, notice how every one of those 8 steps of that 2-day sequence of lesson is hitting nonsense word fluency too, because what is it doing? It's building, thank you, it's building those orthographic maps. And so, word reading fluency, these are real words. Again, these are real words that we're hoping by this time children have orthographically mapped. We're looking again, they have 1 minute to read as many of those correctly on the page as they can. They get credit for correctly read words, and we want to see that score of all of these go up from the beginning to the middle to the end as they're building these phonics skills. And then oral reading fluency is given in grades 1 and 2, and it's basically a passage of text that is connected text, and we call it connected text because it has sentences that flow together. It's not just isolated words. And the students are able to read it, and the way that they know that students are understanding this is by the way that they're reading it. Are they reading it with prosody? Are they reading it with that lyrical way that we read literature, or are they reading it like a robot? So we're watching for that here too. Are they comfortable enough with these words that they're able to just take that and let that be running in the background while they're reading them? And then in second grade, they give something called Maze, which is connected text. Again, is very correlated to this. Every seventh word of a passage is left out. And what they're asking children to do is to find the word out of the three that would replace that word, based on meaning and also, again, based on spelling patterns. So there's going to be a distractor in there that's going to be a little confusing if they're not really using those phonic patterns. This is only given in second grade. So just want to end by saying, here's to the newest members of our literacy club, because I can already tell you that what we're hearing back from teachers, and I'm running into them in the grocery stores, at restaurants. We went to eat Friday night at sundown, and someone came up and immediately started talking, and my husband said, "Are we talking about U-Fly again? I just need to know." I'm like, yep, we are. We are. So it's just something that I think we have all taken to heart. We are all very passionate about it. Our students are learning all about it too in our classrooms, because it is meeting all of the demands that we know that are going to help our children elevate to the next level of literacy. So thank you. I'm sorry that was a little lengthy. I tried to sort of shorten it up a little bit, but if anybody wants to talk any more about it, I can promise you I would love to visit with you more. We all would. Yes, sir.
What schools did we study that's presently using this program?
The schools that we have as Louisiana Tech, or the schools that have been studied in general?
Schools have been studied.
There was in the state of Louisiana. Well, this is only its third year in existence, like the curriculum itself. It's only been out in schools 2 years prior to this. And so right now, the only school that has been studied using this was A.E. Phillips last year. And we started them in October. They didn't start the program until October because, again, everybody is so ready trying to find something that's going to match this that we looked there first. So, and again, anything that was probably published before, I would even venture to say before 3 or 4 years ago, isn't really meeting what we now know, because this science of reading has just been pretty recent. But anyway, all of their student scores, we couldn't believe it. In fact, I wish Dr. Whitlock were here, because he's the one who did the score data, and he went, I had to go back and look at this twice because every child moved up. Like every child moved up. And they're starting this year, even the kindergartners coming into first grade. I heard from the first grade teacher the other day, and she said, I can't even believe how many of my students are already at the green and blue, which are those upper tiers coming from kindergarten. So even the summer regression, which of course we know happens, was picked up quickly. The children were picking it up quickly because of that very structured and systematic routines.
But can we compare A.E. Phillips to the Lincoln Parish schools?
Well, I think what we would rather do is compare, like, we want to be able to compare children to within the same school setting, right? So our idea is that, again, this is strong structured literacy foundation, which is going to provide us some very explicit and systematic teaching to be able to meet the needs of all children.
How would we evaluate the effectiveness and the strategies of this program periodically, not wait till test time and say, oops, it didn't work?
I am so glad you said that, because we actually are already, Mrs. Thrower has, well, first of all, let me back up and say this, because I have to say this about y'all's teachers. This was exciting. So last year, when we got the green light to, yes, this is great, we would love to partner and do these studies to be able to see this progress, we offered a May workshop for all of the teacher coaches at the schools and the administrators. They came, we presented this workshop to them, everybody got a manual that day. Within a week, I got an email from 2 teachers who were not even there because they weren't the teacher coaches or the lead teachers, who said, hey, we heard about this great new phonics program. Would there be a way that y'all could do another workshop for us? We reached out to Michelle. Michelle said, absolutely. We advertised, 25 teachers came on their own accord, kindergarten through second grade, knowing they weren't getting paid. They showed up for a 4.5-hour workshop with us and received their manuals. So they got so excited about it that they were going back to the school already ready to get going. So Michelle has been out doing some walkthroughs already. I believe you started that, a couple of weeks after school started? Oh, 1 week after school started, to see how things are being implemented. Just like we were talking about with the progress monitoring with the children, we need to all be progress monitored, right? We don't need to wait until the end of the year. By then it's like, what the heck? I mean, we could have done something, right, to improve things. So it's that same mentality. She's been out several times and been back in touch with me. We've got a checklist that we're now going to be going out with her in about probably 3 weeks or so into classrooms to see. We're checking on progress monitoring results, which are the weekly tests that they're giving too. So we're not even waiting until the middle of the year to see, is this working? We're staying on top of this throughout from now until then.
Well, I'm requesting from the superintendent that we get a periodic report to see the progress that is working, whether it's working or not. I'm a firm believer, if you can't read, you will not succeed.
That's exactly right.
I sit here and look at this book about poverty. That's the reason reading is so important. If they can't read K through 8, what are they going to do 9 through 12? Nothing.
You're absolutely right.
And it's just, we don't need to make excuses. Solve the problem with the excuses. If he can't read K through 3, go back and find out why he failed. And I'm a firm believer that every child should be able to read. Back in the day when they said every child can learn, they can.
Mm-hmm.
It's only the approach that matters to make them successful. And if you can't read K through 8, you forget it 9 through 12. Because when you graduate from high school and can't read, marry somebody that graduated with you, your kid's not going to read.
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to teach them to read? And that's one of the things we need to look into, is that every child gets a full day of school and education, no matter what it costs. We need to put more money into education than athletics. And that lie they told that athletics promote academics, I tell you, it's not true.
Well, we're super excited to see what is going on and what is happening in these classrooms. And our new dean, she came and she had to leave to go to a meeting at 1 o'clock back on campus. But when those 25 teachers who took their own time to come, were sitting in there, and then even at the end of the year when we had another training, she came and introduced herself and thanked them very profusely for being out there. I think it says a lot for the staff and the teachers at this district that they wanted that they were hungry for that. So, and they're looking forward to feedback. They have been really looking for, how am I doing? What could I improve? It seems like we're all just working on this project together, and the synergy is really exciting. So thank you we agree with you 100% that every child can read. We're right there with you. We're trying to make that happen.
Presentation was wonderful,
Well, thank you.
and all we got to do now is put it to work.
There you go. Boots on the ground. Here we go. I'll be putting my tennis shoes back on now. Thank y'all very much.
All right, just a couple of more things before we wrap up this report. I want us to turn our attention to the data. The top table that you'll see here are our 2024 LEAP results. And then the second table, which we'll talk about in just a minute, are our K-3 DIBELS screener results. So in the top table, I have rows for both Louisiana and Lincoln Parish, and I have total population, and then I pulled out some data for a couple of subgroups. So if you notice in the column 2023 to 2024, total population, we dropped 1 point from 44% to 43% proficient. And then the two subgroups that suffered the most in these drops was our Black or African American, which dropped 3 points, and then our students with disabilities that dropped 2 points. So obviously those are things that are unacceptable to us, that we are tracking very carefully, and again, making sure that we're meeting the needs of all kids, and that the high expectations, high quality curriculum, we're making sure kids are mastering content, and if not, we are, making sure that we're holding folks accountable for addressing those concerns with students. And then if you look at the K-3 DIBELS results, And Michelle mentioned this earlier. If you look at Louisiana, like even with the LEAP results, if you look at the total population, Lincoln's at 43% proficient while the state is at 35% proficient. So really across the board on LEAP scores and even other scores as well, Lincoln is always above the state. But if you notice, it's obvious we have a problem here because with K-3 literacy, we're right at the state average, and Lincoln is never at the state average in anything that we do. We're always above. So that was a huge red flag for us to say what we're doing is not working, so let's figure out what to do. And so that's the plan that we shared with you today, and we really believe that this is going to make a difference for kids. And we're certainly going to share data with you throughout the year. We will have beginning of year results that we can share with you next month. And then after middle of year results, we'll come back and share that and be able to compare beginning to middle, but also what this looked like last year, where we were with beginning to middle, to make sure that we're improving not just from beginning to middle, but from where we were last year. So we're excited about the opportunity to do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Talley. Appreciate all your hard work. All right, so let's move on to item 7.2, personnel. Dr. Lewis.
Mr. President, I'd like to report 1 administrative retirement, 2 faculty resignations, 4 faculty and staff recommendations, 1 staff point of reference, 1 transportation retirement, 1 transportation recommendation, and 1 custodian retirement.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's move on to sales tax receipt for August. Juanita Dukes, please.
Okay, so collections for the month of August, we are 5.5% down compared to August of 2023. Talking with the sales tax office, there really isn't any single identifier. There was a reduction in motor vehicle sales compared to the previous year for this quarter. But other than that, it's just really too soon to tell what the trend is on that. But there is a decrease of 5.5%. Overall for the year, we are showing a overall increase of about 12.21% over the previous year's collections for our sales taxes.
Thank you. You can continue.
Okay. And then next is our financial report. I added 2 reports to the traditional 1-page summary report just because it provides a little bit more information with budget to actual comparisons, and then also balance sheet information, which shows the balance of our assets, liabilities, and ending fund balance. This kind of corroborates what we've been reporting on ending fund balance each month. We have total for our for our general fund, we have total assets of $40.6 million, less liabilities, with ending fund balance for the period ending July 31st, 2024 of $38.2 million. We currently show approximately 6.5% of revenues collected for the fiscal year for the first month of the year. And then also expenditures of about 4.5% to date for the month of July. That is relatively low, mainly because we're not charging off salaries for our 9, 10, and 11-month employees, which will start in August and September. This really reflects our 12-month positions across the district as far as expenditures go. So that's just a budget to actual comparison for general fund. For our special revenue funds, same information is presented, budget to actual comparisons with our total assets of $23.5 million, less liabilities brings us to about $22.3 million in ending fund balance for the period ended July 31st. Total estimated revenues collected of 5% of total estimated budget, and approximately 5% at 4.8 for our total expenditures as well. Again, we very limited salaries being paid out of these funds. Again, if they are, it's reflective of our 12-month positions across the district. Okay. Okay.
All right.
Very
health plan.
Health plan. Okay. So for the health plan for the month of July, this is the 7th month of our plan year. total plan expenses of $10.1 million, total change in net assets for the year of a decrease of $1.8 million. Again, as I reported last month, a lot of that is because of the change in our incurred but not reported claims. It's basically an audit adjustment, but our expenses are up for the plan, obviously, for this year. Also, I provided some additional information in your packet. I prepared a chart that tracks the past 3 years of monthly plan performance. And it basically shows on the chart how our monthly claims expenses have been increasing, and you can see the white line at the very top. If you have that, it's increased approximately $400,000, an estimate about $400,000 over a month over the past 3 years gradually. In recent years, we've seen an increase in our prescription drug claims. Those monthly amounts, that's the red line that you see, how that's risen over the last 3-year period. But in most recently for the past 12-month period, we've seen an increase of actually a leveling off of our prescription drug claims, but an increase in our outpatient and inpatient claims, mainly because due to cancer treatments, and then just outpatient services have just begun to increase this past year. During the past year. I also provided some information just to kind of give you some averages as far as claims expenses, average claims expenses for the past 3 years. We have approximately 835 participants in our health PPO plan, the self-funded plan, that covers approximately 840 members. That's including dependents. That in the chart that you've been provided in your packet provides information on how that has changed or increased. And then also I provide a breakdown of retirees in the self-funded health plan as well. We have very few of those who are under the age of 65 who are on our PPO plan, about 185 members are retirees, covering about 287 dependents on the plan as well. We also provide some information on dental participation. In total, for our dental plan, we have 1,119 members currently participating, covering 2,236 members, including dependents. We have seen an increase in our dental costs this year compared to prior years. The monthly averages are actually rising for dental. You remember a few years ago we increased those dental premiums. And then we also have a breakdown of the retirees as well. We have more retirees on our self-funded PPO dental plan, 478, covering 695 members for retirees. That average cost of about $21,000 this month compared to, it's a little bit higher, about 2% higher than the averages we've seen in past years. But we have more members participating in the dental plan because it includes retirees who are actually enrolled on our Medicare Advantage plan. And we do have approximately 530 retirees who are actually enrolled in the Medicare Advantage plan. That's not reflected in these tables that you see here because this is strictly just information about participation in our self-funded health plan and dental plans. Okay, and that's just information I just wanted to present to you, just to kind of give you a sense or a feel of participation and costs and the benefits that we're providing through the self-funded health plans. And we'll try to give you some updated information on that on at least a quarterly basis so you can kind of track the trends.
Thank you very much. All right, Mr. Durrett.
Yes, just a couple of things. One, we do have our college and career fair tonight from 5 to 7 at the Louisiana Tech Student Center. So you're welcome to stop by if you'd like to see that. It's a great opportunity for our junior and seniors to be introduced to some colleges, military, and then some career businesses will be there. And then our 24-25 pupil progression plan will be available online for public comment starting September 18th. And the revised plan will be submitted for board approval on October 1st. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. Any final comments from the board?
Sure. I've been through 5 superintendents in this system. This is the first presentation I've heard that really sparked my interest in knowing these scores are going to go up. I feel like if these kids could pick that reading skill up, Jumpstart would be in the past. And I'm looking forward to these scores going there so we can eliminate all these kids that can't go to a college or university because they can't read. So I want to say to the superintendent, y'all did a wonderful job. You sold me.
I want to see you do this one more time.
I used to coach. That means head down, butt up, and go.
Did you have something?
I just want to say thank you to the faculty and to the leadership here at Children. The facility is absolutely gorgeous, and I thank you for welcoming us and showing us such hospitality.
Agree.
You need coffee next time.
Fried chicken and everything, all of it.
Oh, it was good.
It was great. Motion that Mr. Hancock work on that noisy thing over there. Next time we come, we can hear each other.
Mr. Jones, thank you and your team for a great meeting. I appreciate it all. I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved. Second. All in favor?